Haight-Ashbury is how many of us picture that 1960s counterculture. Hippies in neon tie-dye, surplus army jackets, peasant blouses, and headbands dancing in the California sun. The Haight District was a youth paradise in 1965 and 1966, a utopian experiment in art and community. A cultural renaissance expressed through music known as the San Francisco Sound. The roots of that renaissance lay a decade earlier, 20 miles south of San Francisco, in suburbs where teen life usually felt like an Archie comic, but a generation gap was starting to chafe. In 1960, 18-year-old Jerry Garcia moved to Palo Alto, where a small bohemian circle gathered at Kepler's Books in Menlo Park to drink coffee, talk ideas, and hear acoustic music. In the back of Kepler's, a scruffy crew took shape. Ron Pigpen McKernan, a young bluesman and future Grateful Dead frontman Jerry Garcia, a self-described beatnik, his close friend and artistic partner David Nelson from Belmont, and a guitarist named Robert Hunter. Together, Garcia, Nelson, and Hunter formed Mother McCree's Jug Band. After volunteering for CIA-linked LSD tests, Hunter emerged as the Grateful Dead's visionary lyricist. They were quickly mastering folk, bluegrass, and California country music, but they were restless for new experiences. Everything shifted in August 1964 when the Beatles played the Cow Palace. Practically overnight, hundreds of local teens started garage bands, and Garcia's crew abandoned the Jug Band for folk rock and electric blues. Sensing an opportunity, developers remade El Camino Real into an entertainment strip with a dense cluster of nightclubs that rivaled and briefly outshone those of Nashville, New York, and Los Angeles. Record labels soon followed. Sly Stone famously signed with Epic Records over breakfast after a 5 a.m. set at Winchester Cathedral, a teen club in Redwood City. The Beatles' 1965 album, Rubber Soul, hinted at psychedelic horizons. And that same year, they returned to the Cow Palace. Local radio and record companies staged a 3-day battle of the bands in San Mateo that drew nearly 190,000 people, cementing the Peninsula's status as a hotbed of youth music. Many garage bands were content to rule their home turf, but others packed clubs and began eyeing San Francisco for bigger stages, just as amplification and sound engineering were evolving to deliver a fully immersive sensory experience. New gear, guitar effect pedals, louder amps, better PAs, supercharged improvisational jams. Drummers leaned into freer, more muscular grooves, while bass players wove roaming lines with classical and jazz inflections, turning the low end into a semi-melodic engine that drove everything forward. Bay Area bands rejected commercial polish. The day after Jefferson Airplane signed their record deal, they told the label that the band, not the company, was in charge. Psychedelic rock raised personal freedom to a first principle. One of the first musicians to decamp to Haight-Ashbury was Peter Albin, a gifted bassist from Belmont. In 1965, he rented rooms for $15 per month in his uncle's sprawling 22-room Victorian boarding house at 1090 Page Street. There he formed Big Brother and the Holding Company and Quicksilver Messenger Service, two of the era's defining bands. 1090 Page became a launchpad for the Haight-Ashbury scene. Meanwhile, the Warlocks, the band that would become the Grateful Dead, were still sharing a Palo Alto house and sharpening their sound during a crucial 6-week residency at the Inn Room in Belmont, grinding through 5 sets a night, 6 days a week. And that gig convinced them to stay together. In 1965, LSD remained legal while marijuana was a felony. Amid that paradox, the Warlocks renamed themselves the Grateful Dead and moved into 710 Ashbury Street in 1966, joining and transforming the burgeoning Haight scene. By 1967, the national media had mythologized Haight-Ashbury, and some 75,000 disaffected teenagers poured in for the so-called Summer of Love. As the neighborhood buckled under hippie tourism and rising commercialism, many artists and bands fled to Marin County, to their far-flung communes and rural ranches in search of space and sanity. To industry executives like the president of Warner Records, San Francisco had become the place that defined a generation. And the Grateful Dead was the band at its vanguard. The Dead were an experiment in freedom, spiritual exploration, group consciousness, and fun. Deadheads followed them from show to show, inhabiting a roaming, improvisational carnival, a rolling, open-ended party, charged with the thrill of stepping into the unknown night after night. When a journalist asked Jerry Garcia why music mattered, he answered simply, "We need ritual, magic, and bliss. The power of myth, celebration, and religion in our lives. And music is a good way to encapsulate a lot of it."